Good evening, Oriole Nation. Here we go.
Alrighty, well, we're gonna resume now back from recess to go into our open session. And our first item is board mission statement and agreements.
All right, so our board mission statement is we will develop our policy as representative of our community, set goals, and lead our district by collaborating. And those beliefs really make up that, our stand up and own it. So how do we individually do the work and own the work that we put forward every single time? We are one is the second, we have to do this together. We can't do this on our own islands. And then third, courage to grow. We're always learning. We're passionate about how we can better help not only the people that we serve, but also ourselves so we can be the best versions of ourselves.
Excellent, thanks for sharing again. Our next item is approval of consent agenda. We actually have 5 items on that approval today. First one is approval for the September 25th, 2023 regular board meeting minutes. And all of the board meeting minutes are in our packet that we received. Approval of October 5th special meeting minutes. Also the approval for October 11th special meeting minutes. And then our final one is approval for October 16th annual meeting minutes. And then the attached treasurer's report. So open up if there's any questions on any of those items or adjustments you would like to see. So we're good. Then we'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And roll on that, roll call.
Matthews,
Yes.
Huck,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Lebowski, yes.
All right, our next item is board members share a moment of pride. Go with you, Rick. You get to go first.
Last week, we had their fall gallery with a lot of great art. It looked like a really nice turnout again. Always seem to get support, so that was nice to see. And I'll just mention they have their big fundraiser on December 2nd and their craft fair. A lot of Christmas stuff there, so we go every year. It's they get great turnout and a lot of vendors, so I encourage people to stop by.
I feel like my head's spinning with a whole bunch of things. So, the end of all the fall sports, which, I know we'll have a few reports on that, so I won't go into that. Some good, some wish it could have been betters. But, yeah, all that has been great, and just the support of, the community and all the parents and the kids, the students. They've been really doing a great job this year. So.
All right, well, I also attended the gallery at Trefford last week. That was mine for this month. And I really enjoy it, seeing that stuff, with, the projects. One in particular I'll mention is about the size of the table of the state of Wisconsin 3D topographical thing. I do a lot of traveling, obviously, with my work in Wisconsin, and it was neat to see the stuff that I see actually the kids have put together in that project. So, but even more than that, when you're at Trefford and around this stuff, and when the families are together, there's just a different kind of a sense of community. They get along with each other. I don't know, maybe I'm lost for words here, but it's just a great feeling to know the pride that they have in their school, stuff like that. So they do. Ms. Stone does a good job keeping us posted on events that they have. So I would encourage you guys to try to do that whenever you can.
Awesome, thanks. And the only other item I had, or two actually. One is our community partners for supporting the incubator program. I know that was a big experience last week. It's just cool to see those real world experiences, I guess, coming to life in our schools. And I know there's many more of those, but I just saw that. And then the coffee hours. I know everyone's taking part in the coffee hours, whether it's with one person or multiple people. So thank you all for taking the extra time out of your day to, stay connected to our community, because that's extremely important. All right, so thank you everyone for sharing. Our next is, and I'm excited because I'm a big soccer fan, so excited to hear from the United Soccer team and coach, and on a successful season, so.
I know, Joey, you want to start us off with this, just
I will
intro?
just
I mean,
introduce, Coach Tony Denson and two players. I know Coach Denson is going to introduce them, but, can't say enough of how proud we are of the awesome season that you have. You put in a lot of hard work and it was a joy to watch, week in, week out. So I'll turn it over to you, Coach Denson, to introduce your players here tonight.
Okay, and so I'll introduce Christian and Brian next to me. They are our two senior captains. First heard about them actually before they were at high school. They apparently famously convinced Aaron Sadoff to put in a goal by the elementary school. So you know their drive at that point, and they show up and turn up their talented kids, and they decided then they were going to win. And now the team is a reflection of their personalities and their work ethic, and it's fiercely competitive, but they're also really kind and good to each other, which is important because as a co-op team, we have to build a tight-knit group quickly with 3 schools, kids from very different backgrounds. So along the way, they help multilingual team communicate with each other. They help other students with setting up doctor's appointments and getting paperwork filled out so that they're eligible to play. So they literally help build the team. They recruit in the school, get new guys to come out. They're very talented. And then this year, it finally, as seniors, came to fruition that after 2 years in a row finishing 3rd place, they go into the biggest game that we've really ever had in the program, in front of the biggest crowd I've ever seen. And they scored a goal each and delivered 3 schools their first ever boys soccer conference title.
I'd just like to say thank you for having us here tonight. And I'd like to say over the past 4 years, I've really enjoyed my time with Coach Tony Denson and Chris and Julian, and it's just been a really good time. Hasn't really felt like a sport or a job at all. It's been fun all 4 years, and that's what I really enjoy about this program. And but as we were talking about the co-op helps us build like friendships with other people outside of our school, and I really like that. And you get to learn a lot of stuff about other people.
Yeah, so I'm Brian, but he pretty much summed everything up. Most people think that having 3 different schools in one team will make it all awkward since we don't see each other as often as, say, you go to the same school. But once we first showed up to the first practice, we all clicked and we all just knew what we wanted and we strived to achieve.
We all have the same goal at the end of the day, no matter where we're from. So I feel like that really helped us throughout the seasons, and we achieved what we all wanted.
Awesome.
Question, like, tell me the best moment of this year, like in,
Definitely being WLA.
okay, all right, same or?
This is the same thing. So we were down, that game was a roller coaster. First half, it was full of emotions. We were still getting used to the game because we all knew how big this game was. And then we go down 1-0, but none of us put our heads down. We all stayed up and we got the job done. Christian came in, he scored the first one, which tied it up to 1-1 at half. And then second half, we went in even stronger and we held them to the entire game. And then scored the second goal. And then that's when we knew we did it.
Yeah, I feel like going into the game, all of us were ready. Like we were all set. Even like the week before, we were all just talking about WLA. Like we needed this win to obviously win the conference. And we all went in, practiced hard at practice. We gave it our all. We on the bus ride there, even though it was short. We just all knew that we were ready to beat WLA. And the whole week, I knew I had confidence that like I've never had before that. I had this feeling that I just knew that our team was going to come together and just do what we had to do. And that's what ended up happening. Like we said, we were down 1-0 in the first half. And we didn't see it as that. We still saw it as a 0-0, and we kept playing our game, and we kept getting better as we communicated more and didn't let the goal change our mindset, and we ended up coming back and winning.
What did you learn about leadership in your,
What was it?
what did you learn about leadership in your captain's roles throughout the years?
I feel like when you have that captain's armband, it's like a statement, and you have to live up to that statement. So when somebody sees that captain's armband, they're gonna look up to you, and so you have to always be a role model, no matter where you are, even if it's on or off the field, during practice or outside of school or anything like that. So I feel like once you have the captain's armband, it's never off. So you always have to be a role model to everybody.
Well, same goes for me. This is my first year being captain. This is the second year because he was captain last year. But even last year when I didn't have the band on, I still took responsibility because I knew how much I wanted it, or how much we all wanted this conference win. And I still did my role, like as if I had a captain armband on, but physically I didn't. But once I did get it, I knew that it was game over.
Good. Anybody else questions from the board?
I have a question, I have 2 comments. So my favorite part about the games, I've been to a lot of them this year, is I love when you guys score, right? That's awesome to see, but it's how you guys communicate with the rest of the team on the field. Like, you're always lifting others, which I think is super cool. And then, I don't know if you know this, but your local celebrities to a group of 8th graders. I'm just gonna give them a shout out, whether it's Aldo, whether it's Christian, whether it's my son Ian, whether it's Dominic, all that group that loves soccer so much. When they were practicing the other day, this weekend, all they were talking about are you guys. That's all they were talking about at the tournament. So you guys made an impression for like another group of kids coming up, which is cool. So as a parent, thank you. That's awesome.
Any other? Thanks so much for being here tonight, and congratulations, and you're in history, which is an amazing thing. You come back and can see that banner or whatever, and you can say you're part of that's pretty special piece, and you've created a legacy as well. You got other people who want to inspire that same thing. So nice job, and coach, congratulations. That's a lot of influence and leadership, and we appreciate you.
Leading questions, especially you guys leaving. What do you guys want to impart on the program? What do you guys want to see different carry forward for the next program? So, when you guys graduate college, super soccer stars, you can tell me is. Oh yeah, I played here.
I just want to see it continue to grow. I feel like now this conference win and the growth since my freshman year, that we've also seen growth in players and interest in the year. So I just want to continue to see that, and I feel like the conference will help bring confidence to players and help players come out and play for the team.
Well, yeah, ending the season pretty high, so getting the conference win, we left it off at a high note. And going in next year, for the next following people who play, even the 8th graders who come up as freshmen, they'll see what impact happened or what happened overall over that season. And they're all gonna have the motivation to do it again and keep going and striving for goals and future plans of what they have with the sport. So I feel like it was pretty good.
They now see that it's possible, because before we never had a win. So now that we've accomplished that goal, they know that it's possible. So we're gonna want to continue to achieve that.
And it was the same thing when Christian and I went to high school freshman year. We looked up on the banner, and there was something for soccer, and there was stuff for everyone else. And we said to each other, because we've been playing since since we were 4, and we said to each other that we were going to get a conference win. And of course, winning last year 3rd place and the year before 3rd place hurt, but we knew that if we were that close, we were going to get it done. And it only took 4 years, but we still got it done.
Thank you. Thank you for all coming. Great season.
Good job.
So you understand too, you not have to stay for the whole program, because this could be a little bit longer. You're more than welcome to stay as long as you want, but at any time, you're welcome to leave, okay? You're welcome.
All right, our next item is student council. Cheryl, so Dave, it's all you.
So I don't have a ton. I know we had a lot going on this month. October is kind of a huge month to kind of get the rest of the school year going, but I just got a lot to catch you guys up on, and by a lot, it's not too much. It's mostly just what happened in homecoming week and another event that happened throughout our school. So first, I'll give you the homecoming results. For Powder Puff, the seniors did beat the juniors 28-22. That was a fun game. Both grades played really well, and I'm sure the juniors will try and step it up a notch next year, which I'm sure they will. They played pretty well. And then the same night, homecoming court was announced. So for your freshman representatives, and if I botch any names, I'm sorry in advance. So our freshman representatives were Amir Avila and Emerson Price. Our sophomore representatives were Dimitri Reed and Kimberly Diaz. Our junior representatives were Owen Rolfs and Brisa Hernandez. And then for our senior representatives, our first couple is Kale Voskel and Maura Ayala. Our second one is Elias Reed and Faith Tillman. Our third is Zach Siechschlag and Lauren Stepbacher. Our fourth is myself and Jenna Krupp. Our fifth is Micaiah Ackerman and Lexi Sabo. And then your homecoming king and queen were Brian Gonzalez, who was just there, and Ella Oy. So that's the court. And then in Spirit Olympics, personally my favorite event of the whole week, the juniors took first, which they dominated pretty well, I will have to say. Seniors took second, sophomores took third, and freshmen took last. But overall, it was just a fun event to get everyone excited, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun time, and I hope everyone else did as well. And then the last bit of information, Feed My Starving Children results. So National Honor Society members and a couple of Key Club members went, and they helped pack 27,648 total meals. I don't remember how many hours we did. It wasn't more than 2, but 27,648 total meals. So with these totals, that means we helped pack 128 food boxes. They weren't light, I'll tell you that much. But most importantly, the most important number, and if you ever go to Feed My Starving Children, they say this is the most important number as well. We helped feed 75 kids for a whole year, which is the most important number in my opinion. That is insane. I think last year we got like 63 or something, so 75 is a crazy high number. Activities roam from scooping rice just straight into buckets so other people can run them. You can run 2 tables. It's a really neat experience. It's like an assembly line almost per table. It really is truly phenomenal what a group of people can do when they all have the same goal. And then I won't cover this tonight, but a huge event that just happened was Trunk or Treat, and that was amazing. Now, I don't know anything. I'm not gonna say any numbers or anything, but that was truly a fantastic event, especially for being the first time. We had a huge number of people show up, so thank you for everyone who's showed up, and I'll get you all those people who won. I think in awards like spookiest, most decorated, most creative. I'll get you those next month for sure, but it was truly an amazing event.
And Abe, those were elementary age students or anybody from the community, or talk to you a little bit more about?
I believe anybody from the community. I just think once you're in high school, you can't go roam around and get candy.
And what did you do, kind of just to the premise of like the trunk and what you guys did to?
So
Make that happen.
so to put things in perspective, my group, I had Luis Garcia and Kelsey Forsyth with me. We opened our trunk and we had a jungle theme. So we had some stuffed animals in there. We had a giraffe. I don't know where we got the giraffe, but I think the office. So you decorate your trunk, whatever, you dress up similar. That's kind of what I'm in. I'm sure your first guess would definitely be Jungle Explorer. But yeah, so that's what we did. And no joke, I think I ran out of my bag of candy in like 15 minutes. Like there were so many. It was just nonstop people, which was absolutely fantastic. But I'll get more on that next time. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Just one more comment on that too, just a point of pride. Like again, first time I walked over there, the line was about a half block back of families and students, and all dressed up, going through. And our Horseman students did such an excellent job of really designing unique, creative trunks. I mean, we had jungle themes to, I'm just trying to, Candyland was in there. Just a lot of different variants of just really awesome things. And I think families appreciated it. And I'm sure it was a good understanding of Dipstick of like how much candy you need to have for this, and maybe we'll need future donations to make it happen, or more clubs to get involved. And yeah, it was pretty brilliant. Amazing thing to see. So thanks for sharing that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other comments from the board? Great job, Abe, as always. All right, we will move on to our next item, which is our clerk's report. So Vicki?
Okay, well, we have quite a few donations. All for Backpack Buddies, we have North Fond du Lac Optimists, $722.10. John and Diane Smith, $200. Charlie's Banquet Hall, $350. Quick Trip gift cards worth $800. Beans and Bites, $425. Darlene Hankey, $100. All Tools NBT, $1,000. Denise Gation Brooks, $50. For the football legacy donation, the class of 2003 gave $100. And for the Phoenix Academy Art Program, Fond du Lac Area Foundation, Charles Levin Family Fund of $1,300, and Fond du Lac Area Foundation, Ann and Harry Horner for $700. And that is all.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Very cool. I was like, I want to say almost like $4,000 for Backpack Buddies in one reading. So very cool. Well, thank you to everyone that was listed there and everyone else in previous messages as well. Our next item is citizens' comments. So this gives an opportunity for anyone that's joining us today that they'd like to share a comment towards with the board. You just will need to state your address and name, and then I'll share your comment. So, got a lot of familiar faces in the audience today, so I think we're okay. All right, we'll move on to our next one. Is superintendent's report. So it's all you.
Thank you, John. First of all, I've changed a little bit of the format on the agenda, and we're aligning it to the strategic plan buckets. If you notice that, next to each one, like learning academics, we have a bit of the program, financial and operational stewardship, engagement and communications, and then the safe and emotional healthy schools too. So we're going to kind of walk through it in that degree. And the first, actually, in learning academics, we're going to be sharing out some principal share outs on the learning and where they're at. But before we get into that, I just wanted to give a little bit of backdrop so that we had understanding before walking into this. What you see up here on the screen, and I'm just going to make this a little larger for people to be able to see that too, if I can figure out that. There it is. I'm waiting for Mr. Harkoff to give me a hard time about technology here.
You're not muted, you're good.
Yeah, thank you. I was waiting for that. So, we get to really be part of an amazing district, and we're focused on an inverted triangle here, and it really begins with our core beliefs and our core purpose. As why do we get to do what we get to do, and then who are we as individuals? And so really what makes that up are two major components. One of them created last May in our staff PD is really the purpose statement. And I'm just going to read this out loud because I think it's important for people to kind of understand and see that as well. It says, we will dedicate our work to serve, inspire, and champion all Nfdl students through love, laughter, and empathy in a culture that creates intentional experiences for others, students, staff, families, and community, so that together we will grow through meaningful relationships and reach high levels of achievement as we passionately become the best versions of ourselves. Let's fly. How that was created was we asked all staff members in the district the simple question is, why do we get to do what we do? And each staff member had 3 words that they generated to say, like, this is what really defines why I'm doing what I'm doing or why I get to do. And then everybody got to stand up and actually share that. And then similarities got, you knocked them out, and then we created this statement out of it. So really defining our purpose here as a full organization community. Side by side with that, our strategic planning group back in June of last year began creating the cultural playbook. The cultural playbook is really an entity of the beliefs that your organization has that really drives the behaviors of all the individuals within, that creates that results or the experiences that others get to experience. So we're fortunate to have 3 beliefs. I already explained them beforehand: stand up and own it, we are one, and then the courage to grow. Those really are our foundation. That's what drives us as a group, as a community, and it then leads into the next areas within that inverted triangle. And that the 10 years really gets into that, where are we going? What are those targets? And that gets into our strategic plan. As I just mentioned before, we've got 4 different buckets. Under those buckets, there are key performance indicators that we measure, and we try to understand where we're at. So we have common language, but also a common target, so that we can hold ourselves accountable as an organization as well. And we're going to get into a lot more of that work tonight. You're going to hear that out from some of our principals here and building leaders to share back that in just a moment. In your folders too, you've got like examples of this. First of all, those first few slides that has that. What you're going to hear tonight from our building principals, and one of the responses was to really look at the learning and academics bucket, number 1, and say, what are our areas or KPIs that we want to work on and where we can get to. The rationale really explains what that KPI is about. The current state says, here's where we're at, no matter what that is. And then that desired state is like, where do we want to get to? And then on the backside of this, it starts the evidence, the collection, quarterly to say, how are we getting that done and what are we seeing as benchmarks along the way, so that we can understand whether or not we're really moving that needle, or there's some other things and iterations that have to happen to make that work. So this is a scorecard basically for our principals, our building leaders, others, that they can see. You all had access to each one of those buildings, just showing you a little bit of that backdrop. Some were able to come up with some other areas with the safe and emotional healthy schools and engagement communication. But tonight we're primarily looking at that first one with the learning academics. You'll also hear in the attendance and behavior, which falls into the safe and emotional healthy schools, as well as in engagement communication, some thoughts and discussion as where we're at. Moving on, this is really kind of the essence of that last bit of the triangle. So we have a strategic plan, which then influences this continuous improvement at each one of the buildings in these buckets. So it gives markers for where we want to go as the buildings and our goals. And then those goals as a building then drives the individual teacher's SLO, or student learning objectives, that we want them to obtain. And then again, it works back and forth. It doesn't just work in top down, coming this way. What is driven from the classroom then drives the goal, which then helps move the needle on the KPI, and likewise back and forth. So we have to be very strategic with how we're doing things and execute as best as we can, and continue conversations and deliberation and discussion to make sure that we're meeting each way within those arrows. And you're going to hear some of that again this evening. And I think, other than this performance right here, And before we get into the learning academics, I'm actually gonna introduce Adam Broughton, our Director of Teaching and Learning, to talk a little bit about how this process works a little bit, but also some of that backdrop as far as the assessment, like STAR, and like when we look at local assessments for our KPI for reading and for math, what does that STAR mean and how that work? And future-wise, and I think Adam might allude to this too, is like I like for him to come reoccurring, just explain some of these components that we're doing along the way. So you have a better understanding of some of that happenings and that evidence within that frame. So Adam, if you want to.
Thanks, Dr. Mino. Yeah, so again, tonight, just kind of a quick little couple talking points on our STAR assessment, which is part of one of our KPIs. But again, there's a lot going on that you'll hear about and a lot that we want you as a board to kind of be informed of and know about. So that's again kind of where myself kind of pushing it and talking about some of those pieces as we keep going would be great. And you'll hear some of those things today too. But so our STAR assessment, and we talk about assessment in our district, we have lots of different assessments. So when we talk about our STAR assessment, that's what we would call it a benchmark assessment, or it could be even called a screener assessment. So we use that in grades, mostly grades K through 8. And then that's used in fall, winter, and spring. So we look at those 3 benchmarks and we use that to monitor progress. And then also in some ways inform our instruction. So meaning based on that data, we will give students certain supports or back off of certain supports based on what that data is telling us. Typically in our district, when we do something really, I guess laser-like and really zoomed in, that data changes. So we see in our STAR data and those benchmark assessments that has changed. So we have a lot of examples of that from the last probably 10 to 15 years. And then that usually also equates to other assessments too. So when we see that those numbers move in our STAR assessment, typically then we see that same movement in our state assessments or even some of our local in-classroom assessments. So STAR has been a really nice tool again to know that, hey, if we move these numbers, we know typically lots of other numbers will move, and that's a good indicator of student learning for us. So this is again an assessment we're using mostly in grades K through 8. We do have some classrooms using that at the high school level, and we do have kind of a different tool. We use the high school we started this year, just kind of a practice ACT, which we took this fall, and we'll be using that to kind of look at where those next steps for student learning, and then those kids will take the state assessment ACT. So again, on the KPI, when we talk about the STAR assessment, you'll see STAR reading, STAR math. Each of those are a component of what we're looking to measure. Obviously, those two are separated because math and reading are really important for us. And again, those line up to some of those other assessments. So if we do a good job there and see good things there, we know we're heading the right direction. If we don't, then we know, hey, probably we should change or do something different.
And we and the board talked about changing the percentage of that KPI from the state report to the local assessment, the reading and the math to a higher degree from, I think it was 20% to 30% for both. So there is more emphasis on that so that we can see that on the regular. The local assessment might also mean some different things from different levels. And so we'll continue to update you as well as that, such as common assessments and other things that will come up as we move forward to that level.
Kind of a quick couple of thoughts on, but any questions about that? I'm sure you've heard of that assessment. Any questions about maybe how that looks for students or anything that pops into your mind with that? Okay, awesome, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Just another little quick note, you've also got this in your packets too. Just a kind of an infographic for people to kind of understand that current state, desired state. Along the way, as you see on those documents, the continuous school improvement plans, when you start seeing evidence or quarter by quarter, this is that why and what in the timeline. And so you see what the development has to happen as they look to get to that desired state. Now, again, there's gonna be different iterations along the way. There will be changes as we're learning and growing together, but really trying to move that needle once we get to that level. Makes sense? So there are steps so that we know we're executing with as much strategy and systems that we can. All right, with that being said, I'm gonna actually have Ms. Dolan start us off here from Treffert Way. And Ms. Dolan, if you want to just share like from the Learning and Academic Zone, and they've already gotten your information collectively from that report of the continuous improvement, but if you could just highlight some of the things that are going on and what you can be working on, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so at Treffert Way, our main emphasis this year as a school, we're really looking at our reading scores. So right now, 28% of our students are proficient as measured by the STAR Early Literacy and STAR Reading. We definitely want to see big increases in that. So our goal this year is to get that up to 60% of students being proficient by the end of the year. Looking at past data with Adam, I know the end of last year, we were at like that 58%. So we're very confident. I'm very confident in all of our teachers and students that we can work and we can get there. Getting there, strategies that are being used in each of our classes. In K1, Mrs. Ida is really focusing on phonics and coding, lots of small group instruction at that grade level. 2-3, their main emphasis is looking at comprehension and understanding of stories. So we have a tool called the Story Grammar Marker that they'll be focusing in on. 4th through 6th grade in Mrs. Martin's class will be, again, also working on phonics and comprehension within small group instruction. And 6-8 in Mr. Williams' class, really looking at vocabulary and how understanding vocabulary ties into informational text and understanding of informational text at that higher level of reading. So those are our main focus areas in our first quarter here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On here, it says 28% of the students were proficient, so at 50%. And I thought I heard you say at the end of the year, they were about 58%.
At the end of last year, we were at 58%. We did have a large group of 8th and 9th graders graduate up into the high school this last year. We had a lot of students that moved out of the district this last year. So I think with all of the new students that we had, and then fortunately summer slide happens, but no excuses. That's where we're at right now. And we're definitely confident that we can get back up there.
So I hope there's I guess, just speaking for myself,
Yeah.
there's a difference between like a stretch goal, but something you still can reach, and something that it just seems to me going from 28% to 60% seems like a lot.
It is ambitious. I completely agree. It is an ambitious goal, but I think we have a lot of things in place. We do a lot of small group instruction. We do a school-wide literacy block from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock. So all of our staff members are available to do small groups, interventions, pull as needed during that literacy time. And then we have a big literacy focus during our project time throughout the day too. So.
And Tiff, can you talk about like your Friday to your planning day for everyone in here too as well?
Yeah, so Fridays this year, we don't have students present. Our staff members during the week are with our students all day. We do recess, we teach specials, we do lunch with our students, and we just really need a time for more collaboration to work together to plan to meet the needs of our students. So this year, our students are not here on Fridays. Some Fridays are considered a virtual Friday where they have work assigned to them. Some Fridays are just Fridays that they don't have any expectations from us for school. And we as teachers get to use that time to really dive into what did this week look like, what strategies we maybe need to try out next week, what could we do differently to set up a schedule to help our students see more success and be more regulated throughout the day.
What's staff's feedback on that?
It's been really well received by staff members. Just having that time. I know that idea is like, okay, we're gonna all get to plan and lesson plan, but there's so many meetings happening during the day where we're getting to discuss students and plan and all come together. And Karen and Beth are able to be there a lot of the time too and saying, hey, how can you help us on this regulation piece? How about speech? How about teachers that are available during the day that we could pull or trade teachers and staff members? And it's just been very well received by staff and families too. A lot of appointments are happening, a lot of families scheduled like dance classes and swim lessons and therapies on Fridays when we're not there, so they're not missing school Monday through Thursday for those things.
Is that new to just this year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'd be interested to see too how like attendance the rest of the week looks like after the year's over compared to previous year.
Yeah.
Like if you see any, I would expect maybe an increase because it's less, like you said, for appointments, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And we'll definitely get those numbers, and I'll definitely be seeking feedback from our families too.
Other questions for Ms. Dolan at this time? There There are, as you notice here, there are two other like areas too. We're not going to go into those as well tonight, but primarily the learning academics, and we'll come back to the behavior and attendance a little bit. So thank you. Moving on, we're going to go with FLCs, or excuse me, I guess Horace Mann's the next up on here on the docket. So I'll get this right. There we go. Mr.
I know you have
Harkov.
in front here as well, so with high school, part of our focus has been state report card and the local assessments, reading. Math is intertwined, but our rationale behind it was our historical assessment data and success data just shows that it's an opportunity for growth as a whole in our building. Our current state, so one of the areas I know Mr. Broughton alluded to a little bit too is creating more common assessments at high school level for more data points and success criteria. So one we're pretty linked to firmly right now is our ACT data. Our ACT data from the 22-23 school year showed below, so the average ACT score is a 17.6. Reading ACT data indicated that, so this rates them at how many are below benchmark, so 74.3% for 11th grade are now current seniors were below benchmark in the reading portion of the ACT. 36% were below in the writing portion, and 83.2 were below benchmark in the math portion. So based on that historical just performance of the ACT in previous years as well is a pretty common theme throughout that data. So how that took us forward, this year we did do the practice ACT grades 9, 10, and 12. 9, 10, and 11 to get a stronger data point on where we're at today. That data just came in recently, I believe, this past week with Mr. Broughton. So we will start analyzing that as well to have a better broad view of where we stand currently today by using that data. Desired state, so by the end of the school year, our average ACT, we'd like to see the growth for our junior class. Again, this is difficult data to kind of analyze because now it's last year sophomore class is becoming our junior, but 18 as our average, which would be a growth of a half percentile. Reading ACT data would show at 30% or at or above, which would be roughly a 5% improvement. Writing would show at 70%, again, about a 5% improvement. And then math ACT data, we'd like to see 25% students at or above, which would be a little closer to 6%. Over a 4-year window though, to know that our focus is on getting those common assessments in place and continuing to move our high leverage strategies forward would be 60% of all students that take the ACT. But again, we'll have other data points for success criteria but 60% or more will be at or above the benchmark. Again, as we build in the common assessments, we'll have a little more data to go through. Evidence so far, we'll be implementing a building-wide SLO to identify high-leverage universal strategies centered around literacy and or writing. Big reason for that, the 3 core skills of ELA are reading, writing, communicating, which we do in every single content area. So those are high-leverage strategies we can look to implement across every content area with the common goal in mind of driving student success up. Mathematics, we will leave them in their own kind of lane this year. Currently, we're going through an audit for our math curriculum with CESA 6. And with the coaching from CESA 6 will also help steer that. But again, math will also be embedding some of those literacy skills moving forward. And again, other pieces, the implementation of that, focusing on universal strategies, and then the continuation of our math audit. In addition, our Oriole time and getting pointed directions and instruction on how to improve that in our 31-minute block, 10 each day. So a little long-winded answer, but that's where we're at.
And you had on here, it said 17.6, was that Horace Mann's, our average, or is that the average?
That was our average
Okay.
for our junior class last year.
And then the practice ACT 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, is that new this year for all 3 grades? I know we've done it before some. I think.
Yep, so we took that this year with academic tutoring as well. We analyzed the data. We just received it, and the nice thing about their breakdown of that data is it truly breaks down mathematics into algebra, geometry, quadratic expressions, things like that. So the data we can really use for our grade level and department level teams, it's very pointed on. We can really specify and hone in on a universal skill that we'd like to implement. So that's the nice thing with that data that we can use moving forward.
And our average is 17.6. Do you know what the state or national average is? I think it's significantly higher.
Yeah, it's been around 19-ish in Wisconsin. I can look that up real quick.
Well, it's just ballpark stuff, you know?
I believe Wisconsin was closer to 18 and a half. Yeah. First glance the other day.
You said you got the data back for the first
Yeah, we
round?
just received it, so, tomorrow we're actually having a day-to-day as our collaborative team. So-
Yeah, and it is just timing of where we're at right now. And there's some other teams that are in that day-to-day process too, so you might hear a little bit, again, that's why we do it again in the next quarter, so you can hear some more information, but yeah, it's, I'm glad we were able to have that assessment too to work through as well.
And that'll only be one, sorry for all the questions, that'll only be once a year they're gonna take it, the free one, and then, okay.
Yeah, and the reason kind of for that, I mean, we could do it more or like a midpoint. The reason is just kind of a full day of testing.
Sure.
And we kind of, I mean, our district philosophy just is we don't want to assess more about what we do with that information, that data. So I think it's gonna give us a lot of information on the front end, and then we'll have some other ways to dabble and kind of monitoring that and making sure that you know, kids are learning and learning the right things that they didn't know before.
Okay, gonna move on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam, were you gonna take Ms. Schultz's, or were you just gonna pass on that for tonight? I mean, the special ed portion's in here too. I'm not gonna go through that tonight. We'll pause on it, I mean, unless you have other.
She kind of asked me to, but then I didn't know.
Okay.
I said,
Okay.
yes, I would love to share, but
Sure.
I didn't know what it was, so.
It's included in your packet. We'll bring it back in January when we meet again, okay? Just to keep this moving along the way here. Appreciate it. And then moving to, I believe, FLC? Yes. All right.
All right, so at FLC, we decided to focus on math this year. And part of the reason we did that was because there's a lot of, I think, uncertainty that lies ahead with the new reading bill, and wanted to be mindful of some of the work that we've already invested with our math coaching and our Bridges tool. So I also looked at STAR math data from the beginning of the year, and it's broken down by grade level. And as you can see, there's quite a variety or range as far as how many kids fell in that 50th percentile or above by grade level. So as a building, our building SLOs will all be geared towards math, but I indicated that 80% of our students in grades K through 5 will be at that 50th percentile or above on STAR math. Also very, I think, ambitious. However, I believe that, you know, when we have those high expectations for our kids and that collective belief that we can do this, I'm confident that, you know, we can keep plugging away and hopefully get there. I think our data in math has continued to trend up, and I do believe a big part of that is because we have a really solid tool with Bridges, and it's aligned to the standards, and we've invested in, you know, professional development and coaching for our staff. So I think they feel very confident in using that tool. A lot of the strategies that I've kind of indicated really revolve around that collaborative team time. So during our Thursday mornings, we're really focused on looking at what are our priority standards, how are we breaking those down into learning targets, where within the different units do those learning targets fall. And then we've also taken a look at some of the data. That's the other piece with the Bridges tool. We have a lot of those common formative assessments within that tool itself. So we're able to look at baseline assessments, checkpoints, number corner. So it's actually very assessment heavy in Bridges. So we're also looking at how can we look at what some of those assessments are asking our kids to do and align those back to what we've identified as those areas of priority. Within our schedule, we have a tier 2 and a tier 3 time, and a lot of our teams have already started to look at how we might ability group some of our kids during that tier 2 time, do some of those reteaching on those specific skills that they might be lacking to also help have more of our kids at that proficient mark. We will be meeting with Chris Meffert, who is a CISA 6 coach, and she's been the one who's been with us for a couple years now. So just, I think a couple weeks ago, she pushed in, she worked with our teachers in grades 3 through 5. She did some modeling of some different lessons, and then had about an hour to debrief with our staff and just kind of talk about what are some of the things we're noticing, how are our learning targets being implemented and then reinforced during math lessons. And then we also, just recently, we are starting to work with Math Fact Lab, which is just an instructional tool that helps supports basic math facts. And there are a few things still happening in ELA, but just again, to pick one and be really laser-like, we decided to focus on it.
Got a question?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you, I'm just looking at the current state piece.
Yep.
And first grade 70%, second grade 36%, like what happens there? Like do you have any idea like why it would get so much right in second grade? Is there a big, like, is that a milestone moment or?
So I would say in ELA, I think it's a huge milestone
Okay.
moment. I mean, I think the growth that our first graders have to make from beginning to end is quite significant. Math, I'm honestly not quite sure. I think some of it has to do with, familiarity with the tool and being able to implement it. And we have what's called workplaces. And so sometimes I think our teachers are maybe a little apprehensive to put those kids into those workplaces because it's a little bit more play-based, and the management of some of that sometimes I think can also be tricky. So those are some things that we're kind of working through at the younger grades.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems like it grows, I mean,
Yeah.
significantly each,
Yeah,
so like
they
if the
come
hit
in
was
pretty
far
high.
less,
Yeah.
it would, you know what I mean, it
Yeah.
might be able to get there. And then my other piece was, you talked about a Thursday morning collaborative session.
Yeah.
This is just transparency question. Do you have enough time to do that usually each week? Do you feel like you get enough resources to be able to have that session each week, or it's not really rushed?
Yeah, I think, we have a full 60 minutes and our staff is really good about getting there on time. And as a leadership team, we've spent a lot of time planning, and each week we reflect on like, where are we at? How do we need to maybe pivot or change some things around? So overall, I think the 60 minutes is sufficient. 30 minutes would probably not be enough, but I do think 60 minutes is good.
Good. I just hear from Trevor Way about Friday sessions, and I hear you have time, so there must be some success there. So I'm interested if it's enough time.
Yeah, I think the hard part, and I think our teachers would say this too, is that time, that collaborative team time is really centered around student learning. And they often don't get into the planning necessarily, or the things that they have to do each day to prepare for multiple subject areas. So that time is really not necessarily like teachers planning lessons. It's really then looking at, in some cases, data, in some cases, learning targets. Are we asking our kids to do the right things? So.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that your teachers would love more planning time, collaborative time across the way within that frame as well? I'm sorry to lead the witness, but.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think you'd hear that. I think, yes, I think you would hear that. Currently, they have anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And it's also safe to say that at least 5 to 10 of those minutes are transitioning kids to and from or bathroom. So it's that time in the day to get the planning done that we're asking them to do has definitely been a barrier.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions for FLC or Lauren at this point? All right, Mike, BAMS.
I will try to be as brief as possible. For learning and academics, we're focusing on 3 areas: the state report card and STAR local assessments in reading and math. So our focus instructionally is to focus on literacy and math. For literacy, which is reading and writing, we're focusing on creating student learning objectives at both the building and grade team level, working in those morning meetings to establish universal instructional strategies, common assessments besides the STAR to measure student growth and literacy, and focusing on our learning targets and our priority standards to be on the same page and be able to be in lockstep when it comes to our literacy efforts and instructional efforts in that area. Currently, for reading at the STAR level, 26% of our students, if you aggregate all grades, are at the 50th percentile or higher. Our goal is to get it to be at 60 of the students at the 50th percentile or above, with at least a 10% growth for each grade. So if we don't hit the 60%, we would like to hit the 10% growth. That way we can celebrate progress in that area. For math, currently we are at 39% for all grades in the aggregate. Our desired state is the same, is to have 60% of our students at or above the 50th percentile on the STAR by the end of the year. We are also working with CISA 6. They created a math audit that we're reviewing the curriculum that we use, the instructional strategies that our teachers conduct. And we conducted our first walkthrough with the coaches last week and our administrative team. So that's, math is in its own lane as well, but our whole school is focused on literacy for this year. Oriole time has been revamped. We aligned our same bell schedule as the high school so that we have Oriole time at the end of the day, so every student can attend. An Oriole time every week, has a specific day dedicated to reading, writing, mathematics, and then social emotional learning, and then a cultural school-wide Friday celebration or like event, service learning event. And then the resource hour, which is our study hall, we're currently trying to figure out ways so that we can reteach critical areas of literacy and math based on data that we collect in the morning meetings. So for example, if 6th grade notices that students are not doing well in multiplying fractions, then the resource hour will be dedicated to looking at how we can reteach that. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
I've got a couple
Sure.
comments and questions,
Yeah.
I guess, overall. One is, I love this process and the start of it. I think something I've personally been looking for a long time. So I really applaud the effort here. And again, we haven't talked about this as a group, so this is just my opinion that you're hearing here. I'm not trying to speak for the board. But in my world, when we made these targets, there were commitments. So it wasn't, I hope to hit this number, I'm gonna hit that number. And if we didn't hit the number, there were consequences. And I don't know if that's what's gonna happen here, but, and I love the stretch and I love the reach. So, there's a balance here of trying to get people to be realistic but still stretch themselves. So I don't want to discourage stretching, but for Mike, for example, I mean, to go from the numbers you are to 60% in a year, I hope you do it and I hope it works but in my mind, that's a commitment. So if that's not a realistic commitment, I would suggest, we want to be able to measure at the end of the year, did we do what we committed to doing? And if it's a goal that you're gonna hit, absolutely great. My question would be, how did we go from 30 to 60 in 1 year when we've been struggling with this for years? But if you can, more power to you. So that's, and again, that's just my opinion.
Right.
Those are commitments in my mind,
And I think that's some of the things we can talk about too, but Mike, I think you also put the 10% in there too, to say like, is that realistic? More realistic to hit that as well, to say like, can we commit to that? Is that fair?
Yeah, I did a data analysis for the last 5 years on STAR, and I can tell you the 10% goal is more of a attainable goal, that every year, each grade level reaches 5, 7, 8, 9%, and it all depends on the year as well. So that's why I added that growth goal was, hey, let's celebrate the growth as well. Certainly I can go back to our academic teams and kind of reevaluate the goal too.
Well, it's just my opinion, so whatever. And then I guess the question I have is there work between the buildings? I guess especially between FLC and DAMS, because again, John brought up the difference between going from 1st grade to 2nd grade. But if you go from 5th grade to 6th grade, it's 62 down to 35. So I'm curious as to why there's such a drop off from 5th to 6th grade, and is there enough communication between the grades so that each grade knows what the next grade expects them to come in knowing? So I don't know if there's that communication or why there's that drop off from 5th to 6th grade like that.
I can just speak to the math coaching piece. I know that the middle school and high school is also working with Chris Muffert from CESA 6. And so I think we are trying to help bridge some of that and some of the work that we are doing here. I also know that Tammy Rademan, our math coach, is starting to spend some time in the other buildings as well and sharing some of her, knowledge and tools and strategies with some of the teachers at those levels as well.
And say, Rick, another piece just in general to that, and some of it is probably isn't our belief, but just in general, we look at learning numbers across the state. As kids get older, that proficiency rate decreases. I don't think we believe that or expect that in our students, but it's kind of a learning progression in our state and probably every other state. But to that as well, if you look at standards from kindergarten up through 12th grade, those standards obviously increase in rigor to expect more of our students. So I think that's a piece that we're really interested in too, and we've talked a lot about is what we're asking are the tasks and work we're giving students, is it meeting that rigor of the standard or meeting the language of that standard? The closer we are, any district is to that, obviously you won't have that then decrease, right? But sometimes we think we're there, maybe we're not there. And I think that can sometimes happen, but so just some in context to some of that, but again, I think we expect all kids to do great things.
But, I mean, I don't want it to all sound negative. I think this is a great step in the right direction, something we've needed for a long time, so appreciate the work you guys put into that.
I have one more question.
Yes, please.
For Mike. I really heard, and I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this point of just the coming together part. You talked about morning meetings and you talked about other things. How do you at your building, do you have a similar setup as FLC has with like a session once per week, or how do you?
We have a morning meeting on Tuesdays, which
Okay.
sometimes is dedicated to staff meetings, sometimes it's dedicated to district cultural, we'll talk about the cultural playbook, and sometimes it's dedicated to, for example, tomorrow we're having a professional development session on instructional technology.
Okay.
We had a professional development session before on setting SLOs. So those are our Tuesdays. Our Thursdays, we often meet 6-12, but when we meet in bands, it's with our subject area collaborative teams. And that's when they start looking at learning targets. That's when they start looking at data, universal strategies, priority standards, and all that. So that's how it's set up at then. And the high school is the same.
Or yeah.
Yeah, it's a K-12.
Okay. I was gonna come back and ask you.
Yeah.
So, no, thanks for sharing. Thanks. Good job, Mike.
Thank you.
And I guess just to put it all together a little bit here in a bow, these individuals right here, they're working hard. I mean, this doesn't just happen, and I really appreciate this team, the efforts they're putting into this day in, day out, because this is a hard lift. And school districts who start doing this, and this is the start, we've got, obviously room to grow as at any place, but I'm especially proud of these individuals, and we're talking learning, we're setting benchmarks, we're starting to put this in play where it's transparent, we're owning our own, current state, we're being vulnerable, but at the same time, we want to hit a certain level for our kids. So that commitment in itself and the work they've done so far has been extraordinary. In terms of collaborative teams, I love for these folks to come back in and talk about what they actually do and their planning. I mean, we have every Monday morning, they're meeting for an hour to try to, how can we get this better like every week? So it's not just okay, here we're just going to throw things together. Like the execution, the strategic side of this is an amazing thing to see. And if we can share that with you at some point in time, I know Adam was talking about coming back on the regular, but having a couple of these folks too to come back and say, hey, this is what we get to talk about and share, so that we do have that common, consistent language and it goes K-12. I'm super excited about this as able to work with these individuals. It's been a real blessing, and we're fortunate to have all these folks within our district. Okay, any other questions in terms of that? All right, I'm gonna take a little pause, and we're gonna go into the second bucket so we can catch your breath a little bit here, and then we can get into attendance and behavior in just a second. Looking at financial and operational stewardship, and I'm gonna drop in here first the referendum, and then we'll get to the capital walkthroughs. I know that's a little bit different on your. This is some of the branding that's going on with Bray. We are lucky to be able to work with them and partner with them throughout this referendum. But one of the things that we get to do within these new spaces is really, share who we are. And I think one of the biggest things is people need to see that when they walk into our buildings, they need to say, like, this is what we're about and this is what we stand for. It also takes away a little bit of the maroon, let me get this right, in the high school and other places. This is a image of one of the brands, and it's going to be in the back of the common areas. But in this, there are pictures from past yearbooks, past photos of our students and our student body, including this year too, to be forever like branded into that statement. So just some unique things. I included in here in this updated version, so you can go back and look at this a little bit, but these are some of the meetings that we have with the branding people on the weekly or every other week, just to get into design phases so that we can do this. The last one we're on is phase 3, which is actually the weight room space. Like, what's going to be on this backside? And this is what we get to talk about at these meetings. And how does that look in terms of where we're at? They use a design concept of the nest, staying with the Oriole theme, as well as like the color scheming, and actually are getting remnants of a nest into the process too of it. And then the far left, you see our playbook and bringing some of those beliefs back into all the design. As I stated before, this is in the Commons, the new section of that area where the Orioles will be back in the back corner of that with lighting. And then you got more of the booth seating. So a little bit different feel for the lunchroom that we can do that. This is going to be the new servery area. And you see We Are One is above that, kind of obviously reflecting some of the nest design as well as our beliefs. Again, here's the weight room zone that they're looking at in terms of what can be on that back wall. This is a mock-up of this. And this, again, just so you know, we're not going with Fondy here, okay? I know that is the big NO. The idea or conceptual design, what they were trying to do is on the second floor, it had north, and then the first floor, it had Fondy. So you could see it from north Fondy to the next thing. We were worried, though, a little bit of people walk in, what, Fondy? This is not Fondy. So there's gonna be a little bit of redesign on there. Again, another belief, stand up and own it, with some of that nest design on the backside. Again, still a lot of work in progress. This is the garage door, or excuse me, the garage door is here, and that'll open up. It'll have an Oriole embedded onto the side as you open up, and you can see that from Prospect as you're driving up and back and forth. It's pretty amazing. Just another little reiteration of possibly that area. As far as the Oriole, and this is the second floor where they had the north there originally. They had the Oriole mascot right here. They're going to move some of that stuff around a little bit as we get to do that. So I just wanted to show you a brief of some of the things that are going on in the design phases in terms of that. The other thing that's not in order here right now, but there was a huge packet about furniture. And there's a lot of furniture. We've got a lot of classrooms. We've got over 23 classrooms that are being added to both projects at the high school and the middle school. Furniture is not cheap, especially furniture that is built to last. And Dave Manns and I'm sure Dwayne and Mike can attest to this too, but looking at that process, but we want to make sure we have quality, good looking, and also stuff that's going to last for the long time and long haul when we're doing this. So we're repping with a group through Bray to make that happen. And if you notice throughout that whole packet, there's quite a bit of different unique things to really go back to our guidelines of what we're trying to do in our guiding practices of be a flexible, authentic learning space so that we can keep things within that frame of being able to get the things done that we were just talking about here a few minutes ago. So I just wanted, it's in there. It's for more of you to see and check out. If you notice into the physical structure, if you're driving by Prospect or on Minnesota, there's a lot of stuff happening really fast. And it's pretty amazing the work that they're doing, and our project manager's like after it. And thanks to Dave Mann and his tutelage too, keeping up on that and working with those individuals nonstop, being able to answer any kind of questions, helping out. Just the knowledge that he has that can contribute to this work has been phenomenal as well. But because of that, we're able to move faster than we thought we were going to be able to move. And right now we're ahead of schedule. Dave, what are we at right now for?
We're about a month ahead.
Which is pretty extraordinary, considering getting going here and working. I'm gonna kind of close at that. Are there questions that you have in terms of the stuff that we handed out, or some of the branding, or even on projects right now in terms of the actual referendum work right now?
Well, I had one about the Fondy thing, and you cleared that up. Thankfully,
Yes,
so,
yeah.
But another one, on some of the exterior things of the high school addition, there's some just long gray upright slats on the outside. Is that just a conceptual thing yet, or is that what's gonna be there?
That's just conceptual, right, Dave? The actual 3 classrooms, the 2 floors right now, there's nothing set in that stone yet, right? Or in terms of the coloring or any of that nature.
Yeah, that's all decided.
It's all decided, it's just not up yet, he's asking, yeah.
Oh, no,
Right.
I'm asking if the drawings that you showed, instead of matching the brick, which we tried to do with, other stuff in the past.
You're saying like this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's different than.
Areas,
Yeah.
it's a different material. It's not brick. It's a fiber cement product. The color that, on that other slide is a darker gray than what it's really gonna be.
Right here?
Yeah. They originally had it as all white. And, that contrast just didn't look good.
And there's a lot of conversation about like what pops more, and that was one of the things that we looked at and worked with the designers to say that probably was gonna have more extension without going to brick with cost.
Yeah, the brick part of the education matches really close.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was, I guess, not really a concern, but a question. In prior projects, we wanted to try to match, so sometimes I've seen buildings, school buildings that have a new addition on that look 20 years newer than the other, instead of trying to meld it all together.
Yep. This matches pretty close.
Okay, and Bray's done well on that in the past, building to us.
Good question. Other questions on a referendum, some of that work? Okay. Moving on, capital walkthroughs, and I included a KWKT in here, so really kind of the premise of this is really looking at some of those other needs as we are moving forward. And what we did this past year is we sent out something to all our building leaders saying like, hey, we'd like to meet with you. And when I say we, Dave Mann, Maria Putzer, trying to think of Brad Ranke, in terms of safety and financially, what are some of those costs that are out there right now? And we had all the building leaders like list some of those high level needs that could use an uptick. And they listed those, and then we, since that time, and actually in the last month here, just went to site visits, sat down with them for about a half an hour, just conversation. Then we do building walks to check things out, not only for the capital needs, but also for safety purposes. So we're getting 2 birds with 1 stone with it. A lot of good work, a lot of good learning, things that we just didn't know about, nooks and crannies that I had no idea, especially like at Trufford, like, climbing up the back stairwell of their lab. I mean, it's just, crazy little things that you find. But I think this is just a way for us to like start positioning so that when things do come up, because things will get older and we have to be able to maintain so that we're up to speed with that as far as safety as well as just the well-being of our school. And so we're making a general list right now of all those needs, and then we're gonna have to prioritize what we've been able to do. As you've heard from Maria, we were able to take some money, the carryover from last year, put into Fund 46. Am I speaking rightly? Yes, good. And you will be able to look at some of those dollars as possible assistance towards some of those projects for the upcoming year. We have to just determine what does that look like in terms of spending. But those monies have to be spent towards those capital improvements. I wanted to give an overview so you understood what we're doing. We will do that on the annual. So I just started this year to be able to do that and get a better understanding. We got a pretty good list of things together. There are a lot of needs, and we have to assess what those are and prioritize what makes the most sense as we move forward, which we will bring to you as well to say, hey, these are some things we're looking at, and get some opinions as well from you. Okay?
You know how the transfer of money from last year to that fund, does that have to happen then, or is there a specific amount that has to be transferred in a year?
No, we can transfer anything
Okay.
that,
Just depending on where,
depending on what that fund balance,
Okay.
Fund 10 fund balance is, because whatever we keep in Fund 10 does not get aided on.
okay,
So that's the strategy. The kicker is you have to do that by July 31st of every year. So you don't necessarily know what your Fund 10 fund balance is going to be.
and does it have to be spent in a certain amount of time? I can't remember if you told us that. Okay.
No. We can keep that as long as we need.
So you carry it, and if you have to build up for some kind of project that you're working on, as we move forward. That'll be it. Other questions about that? Okay, I'm gonna roll here through really fast. This is all the furniture. If you wanna check out the furniture, please check it out. It's all in here. Not saying that we are going 100% with this. This is just a draft. Okay, this is what we've got right now. We gotta make some decisions yet, but it gives you an over idea of what everything is. It shows you even how, classrooms could look. Whether or not they're individual desks on rollers or wheels, to casterns as we call, to tables, and just making some determination of what makes the most sense for placement and numbers in each one of those rooms. What small learning groups looks like, and potentially what that could best meet the needs of the learning in some of those other spaces that are out there. Let's see if I got it in here.
Those chairs are crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Nothing's cheap, right? But again, trying to find color bases, things that work well with the systems, to make sure that they work. This is a STEAM room in the middle school. Again, you kind of see you got tables already built in for the science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, and then you got smaller desks so you can work the other areas around. But flexibility, movability is really key as we're working through this. Another picture of that. Sorry, I'm throwing through this really fast. This is on the learning space up in the high school area. It's the smile or Batman or bow tie. There's so many different ways of looking at this, but it gives a lot of different options for students and staff to recreate what those are. This is on top of the servery area. So potentially a little bit of a nook there as for learning for smaller groups. A teacher can bring the students out there and work through that. Commons, redoing the whole furniture area. That's kind of what you'd see as far as all those areas, from booths to high top tables to higher top tables with plugins for outlets for students to plug in at that time. Pretty nice area. That whole flooring too, just so everybody knows, is going to be redone. There's going to be no more tile in that zone.
What's gonna be there?
What's the type of surface? Is it rubber or what's the
rubber in there?
Yeah. And again, lots. Okay, we're here. So that's the quick tour of much of the furniture. And again, we're still working on finality, but a lot to be done there yet. The last, or moving into the engagement and communication district tours, we were able to start another tour this year. And again, we started this last year with our strategic plan group. And basically what it was is inviting multiple different staff members to check out all of our buildings in our area and our district so they could see what's going on in action while students were present. And so our second group got to experience this just a couple of weeks back, which was fantastic. This is kind of like the rough agenda, and each one of the buildings has a prepared walkthrough so that they have students who engage with the group that comes around to, sharing different stories, understanding, and give people a sense of like walking the classroom, listening and learning what's happening in that zone based upon that level, but just getting a pretty good understanding of everything that's happening, but just general overview. But when they go through this, the agreements are that we want phones there for inquiry, not judgment. And so they're really trying to figure, hey, I noticed, I wonder, what if kind of statements so that they can really get a sense of what's happening within that arena and get good feedback. And then at the end of the day, we survey everybody. And this is, I think, the past, the May survey information. So they share out several different questions. I'm just gonna go to this one. We asked them, what wins did you notice? Or so, moments of gratitude or things that are going really well. What do you see? What areas, items are you still curious about? What is that one least thing that you, what is that least one thing that you can take with you for that you can use tomorrow, 3 days from now, or a couple weeks from now to better support your role? And then please list 2 people that you'd like to take this tour next time so we can continue this on. I think this is kind of an interesting thing. It's the percentage of individuals who have actually been in all of our buildings. And it's about 60% of the group has not, in most cases, been in all the buildings in the district. So the fact that everybody gets that sense of seeing what it is, I hope you had a chance to read through some of these things, but it's very positive. And the reason and the reason why we do this is so that people have a better understanding of how we're all working together and what are some of those things that are going on. And when you're sometimes in your own classroom and you're there and you don't have really have time to get out and see some of those things, you don't really understand all the great things that are happening outside your wheel. Or, hey, I've never thought about this, but I could maybe help or assist at that next level. When we talk about bridging or, working at different areas or working together, they might see some things that might better help the whole district as a whole. So another good tactic to help and reinforce that engagement and communications. Every time we've done this tour so far, people are like, hey, I'm so grateful that I feel like valued, that I get to walk through this and see this, and that you're taking time out of our day. And we get subs for those individuals to help out, but that they get to hear and see that experience firsthand. But it's a full day, and people are worn out by the end of it because there's just so much information that's coming at them that they had no idea that was happening within our worlds, which is really pretty fascinating at the same time. So that'll continue. We have, I think, another one in January. We have another one in March, and I think in May. So there's like 3 more that will still happen. Our goal is in a 3 to 5 year period is to get everybody within the district at least one time around. Any questions about that? Okay, we're back to the attendance share out, and I'm gonna kick, not that one. There we go. Get this back up and running and educate. And again, if we want to just go from FLC, Trefford, BAMS, and then Horace Mann, if that works out for everybody, and we're going to share it out that base here. If I can just grab that. And I think I'm doing this right. Everybody just question if I'm not. We good? Okay. And Trefford, I think you might have like a different one. I mean, I don't know if it's on this one.
Yeah, I don't know that mine is, and I just looked it up and it says I'm at 100%, which is not true. So I need to actually dig into that.
Okay, sounds fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna flip it to FLC, and if you wanna talk from where you're at or come up here, that's perfectly fine too.
I can do that.
Yeah, we're just looking at our attendance there for Friendship. We're at 95% full day rate. Kids are in their seats for 95% of it. It is October. We are hitting a peak, obviously, of some flu, and we got a lot of certain different things going on right now within our building. But to be at 95%, I think is a win. We've done a lot of work in the SOPs as a district to just communicate with families about what that policy is and how we can help and support them when their kids are sick, because we know kids are going to get sick. We know the state says they get 10 days. It's a difficult piece at times to have conversations with families that are just having a rough year. But knowing that we are there to help and support and communicate those, we do a lot of home visits, different things to help support that within that piece. So hopefully it sticks around that 95. I know last year I think we ended up around 93. So we'll keep working through that piece. Just in terms of the behavior, right now, our first 30 days, we really try to focus on those connections with kids and relationships and just building those positive pieces and communication with families too. So some of our data may be down a little bit. However, we do have 17 majors currently right now, which is about 1% of our population. So that's pretty good right now. And then our minors is at 38, which is about 2% of our population. So it's really not about the 38 and 17. It's about what do you do with those 38 and 17. It's about building those connections, having those conversations with parents, rolling out just different pieces of our SEL team that we really try to help support those kids that are in need. Our team does a really incredible job of try to piece together different plans and interventions to help those kids. That may be those 17 kids. We got purple sheets, which kids will ask for, which is our collaborative CPS, trying to problem solve and looking at lighting skills and trying to help those kids. We also had a great PD this summer with restorative practices. A lot of our teachers are wanting more of that. So part of our SEL team has been in classrooms, like rolling those out and just kind of modeling those behaviors. We want to continue to build on those where our kids have the opportunity to really work through different cases and different things that are going on within their classroom. So definitely always work to do there. We know we're not going to be perfect in that area. It's just when we look at those numbers, it's what are we doing behind those numbers to help those kids so they don't repeat.
Questions at all?
Questions?
How do those compare to last year at this time?
We're down a little bit. It's really hard for us because we do hold those 30 days really tight to build those connections. We do have some behaviors during those times, and that looks a little different. It might be not documented. Some of them are documented if they're really big, just because we want to keep that accurate data. But some of those minor behaviors, which are really just those teachable moments during those 30 days, we don't necessarily document those. It's really about those connections with the kids to try to build that up. So we eliminate these moving forward, because our data does show it does help. But it's never going to be perfect that way, but it does help when we build those connections. But the big thing for us is working on those minors and those teachable moments so we don't get to those big majors. But with all the different things and resources that we've had within the district, like restorative, our CPS, all those things are starting to help build our toolbox to really eliminate those, those majors. So, and our families are pretty amazing too, with just working with us too as a team. That team effort within our SEL and our families to keep working with those behaviors. So.
All right, thank you. Thanks. BAMS.
So if you look at BAMS, we have a full day attendance rate of 95.4, or I'm sorry, I'm on FLC, 92.26. And then roughly 2% of our students have majors and less than 1% of our students have minors right now. And so you'll see there on the right, then there's 34 students with minors and 12 students with majors. We are also moving towards a more of a restorative approach with our students at both the middle school and the high school as well, when they have discipline-related referrals, doing more of a restorative reflection piece with them to have them walk through steps as to, what led up to this, who was harmed by this, what role their actions played, and how they can repair that harm. So, and this is pretty much for the attendance on target, similar to last year. And I would say the discipline is a little bit lower also, yes.
The one thing about the restorative practices, it really allows us to dig deep into the reasons behind certain actions and certain incidences that happen. It allows for harm to be repaired. We've had a couple of restorative sessions that really were very powerful, and I really feel that that's the best way to go. Is besides, holding students accountable, there are different ways to hold them accountable that's not punitive.
Any other questions? All right. Last but not least, horseman.
At the high school, our full day attendance rate is 84.91%. Again, you will typically see that the attendance rate goes down when we get up higher in the high school level. We are proactively meeting with students and doing attendance plans, following our district SOP and sending those letters out and making sure we're making a connection with students and families to encourage attendance at school. For majors, We have less than 1% of our students with majors right now, 16 total students with majors. And then for our minors, we have just right around 1% of students with minors, with 13 students with minors.
Because for the attendance one in high school, does it show it by like grade or no? And I don't know, do you see a noticeable, I guess I don't need to see it, but do you see a noticeable change from grade to grade, or is it pretty consistent across the way at 85?
I would say you see it, your seniors kind of tend to decrease a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering how much that's weighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, juniors and seniors, you'll see them then decrease. Your freshmen and sophomore kind of still stay out there.
And one
Report
big
back to the
piece-
team, Abe. Report back to the team.
Yeah.
And one big thing Carrie and I have been doing is once those students are becoming identified, we spend time weekly just who is the student, pulling them in, talking with them. Is there maybe a barrier outside of perhaps their control, transportation, things like that, and then also getting the families in too. So I think that's been a big move for us this year, is partnering with the family on how can we better set you up, and it's led to some meaningful discussion. And I think the students we've identified early on, we've seen an upward trend in them coming to school more frequently and consistently. So it's just been a good relationship with the family.
So I'm just curious because it was on all schools. So the major minors, right, 22, 23, 23, 24. So, I mean, 23, 24 is significantly less, right? Is that just because it's early and we haven't reported? Yeah, I don't want to say that, okay. That you guys haven't done a great job. I'm just curious.
But this is up to date, right, as of like right now?
As of right now,
So we're about
yes.
a quarter of the way through this week, right?
Mhm.
Is it quarters? I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Am I getting a report card soon for my kids?
Well,
So, like,
we'll have to talk about it.
So that, I mean, that can maybe be a quarter of, times everything by 4, what it would be for the year.
And at the high school level, we saw a decrease from September to October in majors.
Okay.
In the middle school, we saw a little bit of an increase, but then for minors, it's completely flipped. There, we saw a little bit more of an increase in minors at the high school and a decrease in majors, or a decrease in minors at the middle school.
Any other questions for? I just I think what I heard too is like, I love for more, and we're gonna be talking about in future meetings, mental health report, but I think it would be good to show or share some of the restorative practices and the SEL work that our teams are doing, because it's pretty extraordinary. They just mentioned like a sentence, but the amount of, again, work in that area is an awesome thing. And it's really so great for our whole community. And so reteaching, relearning how we can be best versions of ourselves. I also want to make a big shout out to Carrie and Brad. We've got two of the best rock stars in the world of student supervision and our kids' well-being. Without those two individuals, I mean, it's a totally different game. And I know that all our building principals would echo that same thing. And I want to give another shout out to our counselors and our psychologists, and who also step in and like lift extraordinary too during this time and make it all work. But the teams are coming together and gelling. We're starting to have more conversations as AMHE, or mental health group, or mental fitness, and all those things come back together to best help our kids long term. So our hopes are to continue to decrease the amount of students who are absent, and keep on decreasing those the behaviors, so that we can best support our students and meet them where they're at. So I want to say thank you for all your work and everything that they do. I'm gonna jet in here because I want Jillian to kind of just share. We're in the engagement zone, and I just want to share a little bit about this. And this was something that we didn't have to like get into too much, but I mean, the engagement communications, if you could just talk about some of the activities and things that are going on in that world, just to let people know, which is also on Horace Mann Continuous Improvement Forum, if you want to look back at that at some point in time.
So we have been working hard to figure out what our baseline is for the number of students that are engaged in co-curricular activities. Up until this point, we really haven't had a way to measure that. So I have been collaborating with, recently with Brad and Lauren to send out a survey that's going out to FLC families this week, that we are encouraging families and students to sit down together and talk about what they're engaged in, and also offer them a way to give us feedback on what they would like to see happening at school. so that we can then prioritize and figure out how can we get some of those activities available for students. We're gonna roll out a similar survey at BAMS and at the high school too, so that we can get that baseline data. My goal is, in the next couple of weeks, once we get that data in, I'll sit down with all the building principals, we'll review that, dig into that data, and start establishing some goals for where we want to see our activities go. When working very closely with Mr. Gonzalez since the start of the year, expanding opportunities at BAM specifically. We got a theater, we're gonna start a middle school theater that'll be putting on a production this year. We're really excited to get an indoor soccer league because we're on the momentum of United Soccer right now. We have 48 students at the middle school signed up for indoor soccer. We're collaborating with Coach Denson and his players that are gonna mentor those students and come in and be coaches for that program. My hope is that we can get that going down at FLC because we know soccer is something that they desire down there as well. And I could go on and on about things that are already happening at BAMS, and we're hoping to get that going at FLC very shortly and continue to work and improve also at the high school.
What I'm hearing is like, we have to find that baseline of like, where are we at, and then at all levels, and that's something we're in the process of doing as a target goal. So more information to come as we see what that is, and Jillian can come back and present back to us to say, here's where things are at in future meetings.
Should really give you that data second quarter.
Yeah, great. Any other questions for Jillian? Awesome. Moving on here to the final blip in that engagement is panorama survey for families. And this is says students right here, and I'll just go to that. Last year we did panorama survey for our staff. We are now introducing this to both students and families. We did a short little test run with FLC families. Last year, I think 5 questions, 6 questions, wasn't too crazy on barriers. Yeah. Just to see how it would work, but we're really gonna be including the activities around the conference time. There'll be surveys kicked out to our families in that area, just in terms of some different questions. This is, these are some of the questions that are like being looked at right now. We're still kind of going through this. In the past year, how often have you visited the school? How much a sense of belonging does your child feel while they're at school? So do they feel part of it? How well do the activities offered for your child's school match his or her interests? So questions to kind of get some engagement, say, hey, how are we doing? Where are we at? Each with different kind of things from school fit, family support, family efficacy, learning behaviors, school climate, grit, barriers to engagement, roles and responsibility, school safety, and open-ended question for as well. So that'll be coming out shortly. The survey will take under like 15 minutes for people to take. We're primarily trying to keep this as short as possible, but we just want to get some initial feedback, get a baseline on that for families. We're doing the same thing with our students starting early November, with similar questions in terms of we talk about SEL and all those components, but Carrie Nitz put together a really nice KWP here, just talking about like why we're trying to capture those voices and really understand where they're coming from so we can meet them where they're at and best support them as they continue to work through their school years and post years for that matter, helping them support them with that as well. Any questions on panorama?
When did you say? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just curious as far as how, like what percentage do we want to bring, I mean, so do we want 50% of the people to take this, or the students or the staff, or do we want our families, do we want 80%?
Students, we hope to get everyone. I mean, obviously we'll have a potential opt-out like anything that we do, but we'll be doing, I believe, in Oriole time and times that are set. So staff is also trained up on how to actually give this, as well as eventually how to analyze this and use that data to help them successfully work with students from all different worlds. So that they know their stories and they can best help them with the learning process too. Because if they don't have that base, the learning is going to be very difficult to get to if all that, the SEL and the social emotional is not there yet. In terms of families, I mean, obviously we're going to try to get as much support as we can initially. And we just, the way that you start amping that up and getting more response is that we got to share out to families, number one, messaging that we're doing this. 2, whatever results we get back, we got to share that back and say, hey, here's our current state, and this is some of the things we're working on, and then give them an update of some of those things after like a year or less than a year so that they have an understanding too. So that the people who did fill it out, they can come back and say, well, you know, I wanted to say this, but I wasn't there at that time. So we can get that reading that's on that base. So there is like a calculated, you know, process for this. And again, trying to get, you know, more input, you know, and feedback so we can best help with our district.
Well, we offer, I know we do a lot of communication and multi-language. Will this come? Okay.
Yes, all of them. So when we start, like, especially the families and like just the family survey, we'll have it in Spanish and English. It's already set and ready to go. Yeah.
Are we ready to move on? Before we go on to the next section, I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed this last section of the meeting, having the administrative team here interacting with you, hearing about these things that are going on and the stuff that we want to know what's going on. But it's just, you know, I just enjoyed it. I bump into some of you here and there if I happen to be in the building and have a quick few words perhaps, but to get into hearing all the stuff that you're doing and that I really like that as part of our meetings.
Thank you, Steve. All right. Okay, I'm moving into event reminders. Moving on. Again, administrators, if you know, at any point, I know you have very busy lives. Please feel free to excuse yourself at any point in time so you can keep moving forward. And yeah, I appreciate you.
Next vacation day.
Quick reminder, we're gonna start the coffee meetings in November. Just the Beans and Bites meeting with superintendent, and it's the second Wednesday every month at 5 p.m. We just waited a little bit just to get things into play this year, but we had like on average like everything from like 3 to 10 at a meeting. Just letting you know you can also sit in those if you ever want to come in and just chat. But really just hearing what's on parents and where they're at and where families are at, and just discuss things that are hot topics at that time. So feel free to join us second Wednesday of every month at 5 p.m. at Beans and Bites. And a shout out to Danielle. Like that's a great business, and we're fortunate to have them in North Fond du Lac too.
Matt, do you get much attendance?
Yeah, it's from like 3 to 10, 3 to 10 people on the time, depending on the time of the year and what's up, and maybe, but I people are, asking about it again. Hey, when are you going to do these again? And I think what was said before by John is like now we have other buildings doing this too, which is great. So they can, kind of ask questions and being personal and just getting out in the community. Again, we're not expecting everybody to show, but at least it's great to have that opportunity to sit down for an hour and just have a conversation. You learn a lot really quickly. So, musical updates, and Abe, I don't know if that was mentioned or not. I'm just double backing here. Is that All Shook Up is our musical. It's a great musical. You get a chance. It's got that 50s. 60s rock swing to it. It's pretty amazing. Now, Abe, are you in the musical this year?
I'm not.
Okay.
I considered it.
Okay. Just to give everybody a heads up, November 3rd, 4th at 7 p.m. and November 5th at 2 p.m. So that's right up close here. We're getting to that very shortly. Please come out and check out that. I think it's great for our kids to see that. Being in drama too at one point in time during my high school career, it was just like an awesome, again, feeling that sense of belonging and giving our students that, different multiple opportunities. Great for them to be a part of. So, okay. The next thing is on here, and this is the schedule framework design team. And it kind of gets into some of the conversations we were having prior to planning time and some of those other things. But last year, our calendar team was really coming together. I don't know if you've seen this yet, the KWKT here, but a lot of questions came up regarding time. And one of the big things is like how much time we have within the day for professional development, the amount of time given each day for, our classes. Obviously we were regulated by minutes, but then time to support students too. And from that, basically 4 categories have emerged to start talking about, or at least having conversations about. What would it look like if we modified schedules within some of the frames in terms for both the efficiency of what we're trying to do there with the time, but also to validate and expedite the learning to within it. Professional learning, and collaboration and planning time. If you had more than an hour a week, what would that look like? And how can you build that in within the day? And then student support time. Do we have enough time built in to support our students where they're at and meet them where they're at, both for social emotional, but also for the academic and learning support of it? And then finally, you have the earlier school start time, depending on those areas. But based on those kind of conversations, we're starting a dialogue with about 30 staff members, teachers from every one of the buildings, administrators, and we embarked on that just last week. We have like 4 more meetings coming up, actually I believe 5 meetings, but it's really to start designing what might be that could work for our best. Now we understand like schedules and modifying all these kind of things, no matter what you do, it doesn't affect the achievement of the work or the student learning. What it does allow you though to do is structure things more appropriately within that time to get to the achievement that you want to get to. And that's what we're really looking at as a full group. And that work started on October 18th. We're to continue. We got like 5 more days there. Really starting to look at it, looking at those non-negotiables of like, what could we see this as? We'll be reporting back those minutes to our staffs to say like, hey, here's what things are, happening, where we're going. But we'd like to, at the end of all this, report our findings to you all and say, hey, here's some things that we came through. I'm not saying anything's going to happen or change within that, but at the same time, I think we'll, bring some things forward that we want your input from as well when we get to that point. And we just wanted to give you a heads up that it's something that we're working on.
Well, and even if nothing comes of it, giving the staff members an opportunity to express their thoughts is very valuable, I think.
And so every building was asked, they were asked, like, does anybody want to sit on this? And so we have people from every building wanting to be part of that. It's, the first meeting was a great meeting. If you ever want to sit in on one of those meetings, let me know. You can come in. We've been up in FLC's United Nations room, but just let me know so we can set that up and you can kind of see what's going on there too. Any other questions with that? All right, and then mine is, the next things here is just future agenda items, mental health report, district report card that will be coming up here shortly, Adam. And then potentially fundraising policies, just looking at some of that stuff for future. And including, I think collaborative teams, definitely something to talk about a little bit more, restorative convo at some point in time. And I think it'd be great for Adam to keep coming back just to sharing like some of those little quick points to give us more information on that learning and academics when our principals aren't sharing out some of that information. Okay. All right. I rest my case.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to new business. We have 4 items on our new business. The first one is to discuss and consider athletic winter assignments. So I know that was shared in our packet for winter coaching assignments. So I don't know, Matt, if you wanted to share anything additional other than what's there.
No, basically we're recommending what we have here is what we want moving forward as a district.
Any questions from the board on what was shared?
Do we have any bites on the basketball?
No, not at this time. Well, at least from the last time I talked to Jillian, which was on Friday, still looking for that assistant. I think it's more the JV basketball coach than the assistant varsity, because I think there's a bit assistant varsity coach, and then a JV, a boys 2 game, but we might not even have the need for the JV 2, depending on the numbers.
When does that season start?
Like very shortly.
November 13th, I believe, first practice day.
So if you have people who might be interested or want to work within that arena, please let us know or actually call Jillian, and even if you can solicit some names that she can contact to try to drum up some other players within this. Because I know she's working with their head coach right now, but they're just trying to figure things out.
Is the head coach returning next year?
Yes.
And everyone else, I think, listed is the same.
Correct.
From previous year for.
Right.
On all sports.
That's correct. Yeah, so Nate is still in the head spot. I thought he had an assistant. I'm almost sure he does, but then it would be just the JV coach at this time.
All right. There's no other questions, we'll approve what was, or we'll look to, a motion to approve what was shared with us around the athletic winter assignments, so we'll need a motion for that.
So moved.
Roll call?
Goldowski, yes. Matthew.
Yes.
Geckerman.
Yes.
Hack.
Yes.
All right, our next item is discuss and consider Board of Education meeting dates adjustment, due to the holidays. This is a regular thing we do, in October, so, adjusting our November meeting from November 27th, to actually the week before Thanksgiving, or the week of Thanksgiving, to then Monday, November 20th. And then our, how much I love hanging with all of you. Moving it from Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas to, December 18th, 2023.
That would be virtual again.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the Bob Cratchit scenario where we're sitting around like, there's no heat on in this building,
Better
we're
be hot
still meeting,
chocolate
right?
All right, looking for a motion for those changes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, then roll.
Hack.
Yes.
Goldowski, yes. Matthew.
Yes.
Geckerman.
Yes. All right, next item is discuss and consider, a budget, total levy and tax rate. So I don't know, Maria, if you want to share anything additional?
Sure. I have the latest updates in your folder that I just put in tonight after just a few more modifications. And just the high level, explanation of where those changes happened, to come up with the total levy and to come up with the total expenditures. Those changed a little bit, and they are all highlighted on your memo there. The recommendations are below, and it is for a total levy of either $6,302,837,000, which would be $7.82 mill rate. And that would be down from $8.15, which is what we had this past year. We're holding that levy stable at $8.15, which would give us a total levy of $6,570,000 and $570,021. And again, that would stabilize the mill rates and allow us to prepay some debt, similar to what we've done in the past probably 10 years. Knowing that we are talking about we're in the beginning of stages of talking about another operational referendum, if not a building referendum. That would be the recommendation. That would be the strategy that would be recommended there, is to keep the mill rate stable at $8.15. Any questions on any of the information?
Questions? So when I read, we read it.
Need a motion to decide which one.
Which one?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the motion?
Yeah. Right.
So how does that
Where
work?
is it? Okay.
Because if we make a motion, do the first one or do I read them both?
No, just the one that we're favor doing, and if it gets voted no, then we can have the motion for the other one, I suppose, so. So I'll start, I'll make a motion to, set the total tax levy at $6,570,021, which equates to a mill rate of $8.15, for the, 23-24 school budget.
Second. And then roll call on that?
Discussion.
And discussion.
So just so I have the numbers right, $6,569,971.
That, it's actually the updated one is in your folder.
Okay.
Yeah, 6,570,000 and 21.
About $30 more. A little bit.
Any questions before we? Okay, then we'll go to roll call on that.
Huck,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes.
All right. Our last item is discuss and consider employee resignation from our closed session. So we had one employee resignation and, we should read the name in this open session, right, for, Jen Igar. Before we go open, or before we vote on that, just, appreciate everything Jen has done, for the district in her time here, so just want to thank her publicly for that. Any other comments before that? All right, look for a motion to accept the resignation of Jen Nygaard.
Second,
And roll call?
Matthew,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes. Huck,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes. All right, that's all new business items, so we're actually gonna then vote to go back into closed session. So looking for a motion to do that.
Second.
All right, roll call.
Matthew,
Yes.
Huck,
Yes.
Geckerman,
Yes.
Goldowski, yes.
All right, and we'll go back into closed session.
Thanks, Abe.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.